Hi, everybody. Gene here. Welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, where every single week we answer the most common and uncommon questions about tapping and EFT so you can eliminate self-sabotage and take the action that you want. As you recall, back in November, we did a 30-day tapping challenge where every single day I posted a new YouTube video and also put the video on the regular website that you could tap along to. They were between 5 and 7 minutes long, and there was such a great response to that. And moving forward, every single Monday, starting last Monday, as you hear this podcast, I will be posting tap-along videos on the website once a week so that you can have one more resource and access as a way of eliminating self-sabotage and taking the action that you want. If you would like to receive a very brief email notification, and when I say brief, it'll basically say, here's the video, this is the title, here's the link. If you'd like to receive a brief email every single Monday, reminding you that there is a new video there that you can tap along to, all you need to do is go to tappingqna.com/video. That's tappingqna.com/video. Just enter your email address in there, and every single Monday, you'll receive a little notification when a new video goes live, so you can remember to do a little extra tapping. This is Gene Monterostelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 414, originally aired December 18th, 2019. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Today, we're going to talk about and tap about when we want something better for someone else and they don't actually want that, or they're not taking the action to do that. Before we jump into that, I just want to send a big shout out to all of the supporters of the Tapping Q&A podcast. Thank you. You make the podcast possible. For those of you who are supporters, the videos that I talked about at the top of the show, they're going to be going live every single Monday. You will also receive an MP3 in the supporters feed. So if you haven't seen that yet, you can shoot me an email, Gene, Gene, @tappingqna.com, so you can actually take those tap-alongs with you as a bonus in addition to all the other bonuses that you get. If you'd like to become a supporter of the Tapping Q&A podcast to ensure that we keep creating this every single week, all you need to do is go to tappingqna.com/support. And if you have any questions, you can always reach me, Gene, Gene, @tappingqna.com. One of my favorite podcasts is this very silly podcast called the Judge John Hodgman podcast. And the premise of the show is it's very much like the old People's Court, for those of you in the United States who remember that, where people just have civil disputes with each other that they then bring to the court to have decided. But the fake internet court that Judge John Hodgman runs is trivial at best. There are lots of really fun conversations about, is stew a soup, and in which order do we eat our leftovers? What do you do about a hole in your bathroom in which bats are flying into, and how do we deal with those bats? And so you can see the questions are odd and trivial. But the reason I love the show is because of the way that John is able to have thoughtful conversations about the human experience in the midst of something that is fun and silly. And back in episode 400, which was a number of months ago, one of the litigants, there was a dispute between a married couple, and one of the litigants, when talking about her husband, said, I want him to have what he wants. I just want him to want something different. And that is such a perfect human statement. I want him to have what he wants. I just want him to want something different. And for those of us who are in the transformation space, and those of us who are spending time trying to make our daily life healthier, we bump into tools like tapping or anything else, which we think is really, really valuable. And because it's valuable, we turn to our loved ones, and we want our loved ones to be healthier. And in many cases, we can see other people's actions more clearly than they can see their own, that we're outside of the experience. And we feel, because that is the case, that we have insight that we should share. But there's this really tricky place between wanting what is best for a loved one in our life and choosing to take responsibility for that. And the reality is, we cannot be responsible for someone else's life or their emotional state. So much so, they could decide that we are responsible for them emotionally, and we could decide that we are responsible for them emotionally, and it still can't happen. That people's actions, that people's lives is something that is internal. It is responsible. They are responsible themselves for that. And it can be hard because we want better for the people around us. It can be hard because we can see sometimes with clarity bad choices that they're making over and over again. And we see what we believe is a better path forward. And you'll notice that I couched all of that in terms of wants and desires and beliefs, and none of it is a statement of fact because we don't know. Like, even when we're convinced that something is the right path, we're still working from a place of belief based maybe on evidence, based on experience, but there's never a certainty inside of that thing. And so it's hard. It's hard to be present to our loved ones and want something better for them, but knowing we can't take responsibility for that. And so for me, simply acknowledging that fact up front, that my desire and my want is wanting what's best for them, and acknowledging the fact that I can't take responsibility, gets me to take a half step back so I'm not running people over, because I have been known in my life to run people over with a path, a decision, a moving forward that I think is most helpful. And so when we find ourselves in those spots, it's good for us to check our desires, to move back to a place of not only a good intention in wanting better for others, but clearly seeing the playing field and what we can do and what we can't. And so that's what we're going to tap on today. We're going to tap on this idea of creating space for ourselves to continue to be present for those around us without being frustrated and overwhelmed with the fact that they're not doing exactly what we want them to do. So tap on the side of the hand, take a nice big deep breath. And just move from tapping point to tapping point, repeating after me. I really want what's best for my loved ones. I want them to be happy. I want them to be healthy. I want them to find joy in this world. There are times in which I think I see a better path. There are times where I think I see a better way. There are times in which I can see the pain that they are in and I want better for them. I'm glad there's a part of me that wants better for my loved ones. I'm glad that there's a part of me that wants to share good things with my loved ones. At the exact same time, I can't be responsible for them. I can't be responsible for their emotional state. I can't be responsible for their choices. I can't make my choices for them. Even if they wanted me to be responsible for them. And I wanted to be responsible for them. It would be impossible for me to be responsible for them. They have free will. They have control. It is their life. I can want better for them without running them over. I can want better for them without telling them what to do. I can want better for them even in the face of them making choices that I don't think are healthy. I want what's better for them and acknowledge it is their life. I want what is better for them and acknowledge it is their choice. I want what is better for them. I appreciate there's a part of me that wants to fight for them. But I know it is their life that they must be making choices for. Recognizing this is hard for me. But recognizing this is best for them, and it is best for me. Nice deep breath. We can see how hard it is standing on the outside wanting best for someone else when they're not making choices which we think are the best. But at the exact same time, if the tables were turned, we know what it's like when people are barging their way in and trying to make better choices for us when we want to make the choices that we want to make. And so it's good for us to want better for our loved ones and to be present to them and to be present for them. We're responsible to our loved ones. We're not responsible for our loved ones. We're responsible to show up the best that we can without taking over. And for me, even someone who's been thinking about this particular idea for decades and seeing how I show up in other people's lives, it's still a struggle day to day. And so tapping like this is really good to help us stay grounded to make the good choices that we want. If you found this useful and you know someone in your life who might benefit from this, please be our ambassador. Pass it along. The most common way people find new content, new videos, new audios is from the recommendation of a friend. It would really mean the world to me if you passed it along, because if we continue to work to a place where we're making thoughtful, healthy choices, those ripple out. And if our life is better, the people around us' lives are better. And that is a chain reaction. And I say it every week. I know that sounds so super, super cheesy. And it also happens to be true. You know it to be true. And so if you could pass it along, that would mean the world to me. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. In podcasting parlance, subscribing is free. Everywhere you find audio, you can find the Tapping Q&A podcast in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and everywhere audio is found online. It is always absolutely free. I'd also encourage you to check out the Judge John Hodgman podcast, where I pulled this quote from. It makes me laugh every single week. It also is such a thoughtful conversation about the human experience through these trivial ideas. If you just search Judge John Hodgman in any podcasting app, you will find that marvelous, marvelous show. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have a topic you'd like us to cover in the future, we're working on interviews for the new year right now. Please let me know. Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com. If you're in the website, just click on that contact link up above in the menu. If you happen to be in the Tapping Q&A app, click on contact. You can send me both an audio or an email message from right inside of the app. I always love hearing from listeners and readers just like you. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Montrestelli. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Montrestelli, Tapping Q&A 2016. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Montrestelli or Tapping Q&A.